At dinner, I said one sentence against my mother-in-law. My wife then slapped me in front of everyone. A sharp hit across my face, right there in my own dining room. My name is Daniel. I work as a contractor. I have been married to Michelle for 7 years. That night, we were all sitting around the dinner table. It was me, Michelle, her mother and father, her 2 brothers, and her sister. They had been staying in my house for 5 years without paying rent. Michelle's mother was speaking in her usual tone, saying I needed to work more, earn more, and provide better for the family. I had heard the same thing many times before. I normally stayed quiet to avoid conflict. But that night I didn't stay silent. I said, maybe if I wasn't supporting 6 extra people, we would have more money. The entire table went quiet immediately. You could feel the tension in the air. Michelle's face turned red in seconds. She looked shocked and angry at the same time. "What did you just say?" I asked again. Before I could even react properly, her hand came across my face. The slap was loud and sudden. Her sister actually gasped. Michelle stood up and shouted, "Don't you ever disrespect my mother!" I touched my face and looked around the table. Everyone was staring at me like I was the problem. Her father slowly stood up and said, "You need to apologize right now." I looked around again, at all of them sitting in my house, eating my food, using my electricity, my water, everything. None of them worked. None of them contributed anything. I calmly said, "No." Michelle said, "Excuse me?" I pushed my chair back and stood up slowly. Something inside me just switched off. I said, "I'm done." I walked upstairs, opened my closet, and pulled out a duffel bag. I packed clothes, toiletries, and my laptop. I didn't rush. I came back downstairs, and they were still sitting at the table in silence. I looked at Michelle and said, "I'll be back tomorrow." Then I walked out of my own front door and made a phone call that changed everything. I met Michelle 8 years ago at a church barbecue. She seemed kind, soft-spoken, and very family-focused. That last part should have been a warning, but I didn't see it then. We got married 1 year later in a small wedding. Her entire family was there. 2 years after marriage, her father lost his job when his construction company shut down. They asked if they could stay with us just for a few months, until he found something new. I agreed. That few months turned into 5 years. Her parents moved into the guest room. Her younger brother took the basement. Her sister and other brother stayed in the den, which we had turned into a second room. Suddenly, 5 extra people were living in my 3-bedroom house. I had bought the house before I got married. It was in my name only. I paid the mortgage. I paid all the bills. Michelle did not work. She said she needed to stay home to help her mother because of health problems, though she never clearly explained what those problems were. So I worked long hours, sometimes 60 hours a week, taking construction jobs, renovations, anything that paid. Every day I came home tired, and every day the house was full, noisy, and crowded. There was no privacy, no quiet, no peace. Her family treated my house like a hotel. They ate my food, left mess everywhere, and complained when things were not good enough for them. I stayed quiet most of the time. I kept the peace for years. Michelle always took their side. Never mine. It was always family first, but somehow I was never included in that family respect. That night after leaving the house, I was sitting in my truck outside a Marriott hotel. I had my phone in my hand, and I made the call I should have made a long time ago. I called my lawyer, Steve Patterson. "Steve, it's Daniel. I need to file for divorce tonight." Steve met me at his office around 9 p.m. He owed me a favor because I had renovated his kitchen at cost the previous year. When I walked in, he could tell something serious had happened. "What's going on?" he asked. I told him everything. The slap, the disrespect. 5 years of her entire family living off me. He listened carefully and wrote notes. He said, "The house is only in your name?" "Yes," I said. "I bought it before marriage." "Any shared major assets?" "No. Just a joint checking account with about $3,000. He leaned back and said, Then your situation is actually very clear. The house is yours. No children makes it simpler. Very little shared property. How fast can we move? I asked. I can file tomorrow morning, he said. But there is one issue. The people living in your house are technically tenants now, even without a written lease. What does that mean? I asked. It means you cannot just force them out immediately. Legally, you need to give notice. Usually 30 days. I felt my jaw tighten. 30 days? Yes, he said, unless they leave on their own. Then he paused and added, there is another option. Since you own the house and you are paying all utilities, you can stop services. Electricity, water, internet. It will make the situation uncomfortable, and it is legally allowed in your case. I asked, is that really legal? He nodded. You are the account holder. You are not required to support people who are not on the deed or lease. I sat back in the chair, thinking. And Michelle? She is still your wife until divorce is finalized. But if she stays there, it shows she is choosing her family over you. That actually helps your case. I said, how long will the divorce take? 6 months, maybe less if she does not fight it. I nodded slowly. Do it. File everything. Steve filed the divorce paperwork the next morning. Michelle was served at the house at noon. Within minutes, my phone started ringing non-stop. She called me 17 times. I did not answer. Then she texted, we need to talk. This is insane. I replied, there is nothing to talk about. You made your choice when you hit me. She replied again, please come home. We can fix this. I wrote back, that is not my home anymore. That afternoon, I called the utility companies one by one. Electricity, gas, water, internet. I want to disconnect service at this address, I said. Are you the account holder? They asked. Yes. Then we can process it. Service ends tomorrow at noon. I also called a locksmith. I need all locks changed today. Do you own the property? He asked. Yes, and I am the only owner on the deed. He arrived around 4 p.m. I went back to the house. Michelle's car was gone. Her father's truck was also gone. The locksmith replaced every lock: front door, back door, side gate, garage. Everything was changed. When he finished, I walked through the house one last time. The place was messy, dirty dishes in the sink, clothes on chairs, rooms in chaos. I took pictures of everything for legal proof. Then I left and locked the door behind me. At 6 p.m., Michelle called again. This time I answered. What did you do? She screamed. What needed to be done? I said calmly. The locks are changed. We can't get in. I know, I said. That is the point. This is our home, she shouted. No, I replied. It is my house, and you are not welcome there anymore. She went silent for a moment, then said, my family has nowhere to go. I said, you should have thought about that before you slapped me. They are going to freeze. You shut off everything. Yes, I said. Electricity, water, gas, all of it. There was a long silence. Then she said, you are going to regret this. I answered, I already regret staying for 5 years. She hung up. Soon after, her father called and left a voicemail threatening me. I deleted it. Her brother sent angry messages. Her mother left long emotional voicemails. I blocked all of them except Michelle, because I needed her messages for the divorce case. Later that evening, Steve called me again. They contacted my office and said I had illegally evicted them from the house. I asked one simple question in return. Did I? No. It's your house. You let them stay there without paying rent, like a favor. You can take that permission back whenever you want, but now they're saying they might claim tenant rights. I said let them try if they want. Then they also claimed I stole their belongings. I told my lawyer that everything inside that house belongs to me. I still have every receipt saved. He nodded and told me to keep all of it ready and organized because it might be needed later. That night, Michelle sent me a long message. It started with, please. She said she was sorry about slapping me. She admitted she was wrong. Then she tried to soften it. She said I should not punish her entire family for her mistake. She wrote that they had nowhere to go. Her mother was sick, her father was still looking for work, and they were struggling. She asked me to just let them come back into the house for a while so they could figure something out. She said they would adjust and manage everything later. I read her message twice without replying right away. Then I typed one short sentence back. You chose them. Now live with them. I didn't add anything else. She didn't reply after that. The next morning, I drove past my house on my way to work. I slowed down as I passed it. There were 3 cars parked in the driveway. It looked like people were sleeping inside them. I could see that they had no real plan, just survival in place. I didn't stop. I just kept driving and focused on the road ahead. 2 days later, Michelle came to my job site. I was working on framing a wooden deck when I noticed her car pulling up. She stepped out slowly. Her eyes were red, her hair looked messy, and she seemed like she hadn't slept properly in days. She walked toward me and said, "Daniel, please, we need to talk." I put my hammer down carefully. I told her I was working. She said this could not wait. My crew was watching us from a distance, pretending not to listen but clearly paying attention. I walked a few steps away from them and stopped near her car, keeping some space between us. I asked her what she wanted. She told me her family was staying in a motel now and it cost $90 a night. She said they could not afford it for long. I told her calmly that it was not my problem. She looked hurt and said they were her family. I reminded her that I used to be her husband. She raised her voice slightly and said I was still her husband in some way. She said I was cruel for doing this after everything. I reminded her that she had hit me in front of everyone, and nobody in her family had said a single word to stop it. That silence meant more than anything else. She looked down and said softly that she knew, and that she was sorry. I told her that sorry was not enough anymore. I asked her again what she actually wanted from me. She said she wanted me to sign the divorce papers and move out of the situation in a way that still helped them. I told her I would not be moving anywhere. I told her to take her family and figure out their own life. She said again that they had nowhere to go. I told her she had 5 years to figure that out while living in my house without paying rent. Her voice broke and she said she had made a mistake, just one mistake. I shook my head and told her it was not just one mistake. It was a long pattern of choices. She kept choosing them over me every single time. She said it was not fair for me to say that. I told her what was not fair was me working myself tired every day for people who did not respect me at all. She wiped her eyes again and asked me one more question. If she signed the divorce papers, would I at least let them come back for 1 month so they could find another place? I looked at her properly for a moment. I thought about everything that had happened over the years. Then I said no. I told her the answer was final. The house stays locked. They stay out. That was it. She started crying harder and begged me again. She said something about her mother. I told her mother should have raised her better. After that, I turned around and walked back to my crew without saying anything else. I did not look back. Over the next 2 weeks, her family kept trying different things. Her father came to my job site one day and started shouting. Security had to remove him because he was disturbing the work. Her brother went on Facebook and posted that I was abusive and that I had thrown a disabled woman and her family onto the streets. That post spread quickly in our town. At first, some people believed it, and I started getting messages from strangers accusing me of things they did not understand. But then people who actually knew me started speaking up. Friends and coworkers who had seen everything for years began to respond with the truth. One of my crew members posted publicly that I had supported that family for 5 years while they contributed nothing. He said I was one of the most generous people he had ever worked with and that they were lucky I never charged them rent at all. Slowly, the comments started shifting. People began asking real questions about why no one in that family worked and why they depended on one person for so long. After that, Michelle deleted her social media accounts. Her sister found a job at a grocery store. Her brother moved back in with an ex-girlfriend. Her parents moved into a small, cheap apartment on the other side of town. Everything in their life changed very quickly once the support was gone. Eventually, Michelle signed the divorce papers. We met at Steve's office. She avoided looking at me the whole time. She said quietly that I had ruined her family. I told her no, they had done it to themselves. Steve placed the papers in front of her. She signed them and pushed them back without another word. She said she hoped I would be happy. I did not answer her. The divorce was finalized about 6 weeks later. The house stayed in my name. There was no alimony and no ongoing connection. Just a clean break. I changed every lock and every code. I repainted rooms and removed everything that reminded me of them. I sold some items and donated the rest. Slowly, the house started feeling different. It felt quieter, but not empty in a bad way. More like space returning. About 6 months after the divorce, I saw Michelle at a grocery store. She was alone. She looked thinner and more tired than before. When she saw me, she froze for a second. I nodded and kept walking, but she called my name. I stopped and turned. She walked closer and said she needed to tell me something. I said, okay. She told me her family was not speaking to her anymore. After everything fell apart, they blamed her for it. They said she should have kept me happy and controlled things better. Her voice shook when she said even her mother called her worthless for losing me. I told her I was sorry to hear that. She asked if I really meant that. I thought about it for a moment and said yes, I did. Nobody deserves that kind of treatment. She said she finally understood what they had been and what she had allowed them to turn her into. She said I had been right about everything. She admitted she had chosen them over me every time, and apologized again. I told her I appreciated her saying it, but it did not really change anything now. She gave a small, sad smile and said she did not expect it to. I started walking away, then she called my name again. I turned back. She asked if I was happy now. I thought about my life, my quiet home, and my peaceful mornings where nobody demanded anything from me anymore. I told her yes, I was. She said I deserved that. I watched her walk away to her car. I felt a little sympathy for her, but mostly I just felt free. That night I went home, sat on my porch, and drank a beer in silence. My house, my peace, my life. No arguments, no demands, no weight on my shoulders. For the first time in years, everything felt exactly right.